Hey there, everybody. This is a fan with too much time here, coming at you for the first time ever from my actual face. So what do you guys think? Yeah, I know. Not quite Astartes. Certainly not Eldar. And, no, certainly not Tau either. I'm afraid, my friends and fans, that you will have to make do with the Imperial Guard standard. But fret not, because that standard has done quite a great deal of good. And today, the good I'm doing for you is some new content. Reaction content. That's right! Try not to laugh challenges, candid reactions, creator commentaries, and audio literature critiques. That, and perhaps more, are what I plan to bring to the channel now for you. And, to be honest, for me too. This kind of content is much easier for me to make, it keeps the algorithm happy, it's fun, and it enables me to interact with the content of other creators, which I really like to do. So, I hope you're ready to join me on this new adventure as we commence fan reactions. But before we do that, and before we launch into this new fun, I do have an announcement to make. An announcement I'd really appreciate that my fans listen to. So recently, two huge things happened in the semblance of my professional life as a writer, as much as that exists right now. Event number one is that me and my brother have just won a huge contest, a huge comic contest for the video game Valorant. I will link it down below so you can take a look at it and the other winners, but it's just a great thing to work with that team, to be associated to them and to help them out, and also to take that step in our association, just in general, to show people that we can work in these other properties, which is what brings me to the second thing, which in my opinion is even larger, a much bigger deal than the first thing. We recently finished our comics, and as a result, our Kickstarter, our first Kickstarter, is finally up and running. In particular, the Kickstarter for the Red Hunt. It is an incredible passion project that me and my brother have been working on for a really long time, for years. And it's finally ready to begin and to be debuted to the public. Not only that, but finally it's our turn up to bat, our turn to try to seize our opportunity. You see, for better or for worse, the way that most human industries work is it depends more on who you know than what you do. Me and my brother are writers, but we don't really know anyone. We want to break into the industry. We want to be writers. We want to write. We want to help people make stories. We want to craft incredible narratives. But it's hard to even get your foot in the door when you don't have anything to show, and it's hard to show anything when no one will give you a chance. So we made our own chance. We struggled and fought hard to finally make our own comics, and now that our comics are finished, we're taking the final step. The final big step to showing that this means something. You see, I can go to a potential employer or a company that creates comics or books, narratives of one kind or another that I may want to help or work with or involve professionally, and the problem is that I go to them and the first thing they ask is, why should we trust you? What can you show us that will make us trust you? I could show them a comic book that I've made, and that could take me far if the person I show it to likes the comic book in question. But what everyone who runs a business likes, what becomes real clout currency when it comes to professional endeavors, is success, financial success. I can show them a comic that I struggled to make, and maybe they like it, maybe they don't. Maybe they don't even have time to look at it properly. Maybe they're not in the right mindset to look at it properly. But if I show them a successful Kickstarter, and I say, look, not only did I put this comic together, not only did I manage my own team, did I create, get the art rather created, not create the art myself because I can't draw, but not only did I do all of this to make this reality and make it real and happen, and here it is, but when I showed it to the public, when I showed it to my fans, when I showed it to the people who matter, they cared enough to support it. They cared enough to provide what normally requires the marketing and name of a much larger company, such as the one that may be, in this example. The point is that by having a successful Kickstarter of any kind, I'm able to show that not only am I creative, not only can I write, but I can be profitable too, and that means a lot more in the world we live in than just being a good writer. So this is my opportunity, me and my brother's opportunity rather, to show what we've got and to finally start to put our foot in the door into doors that were previously closed. And so the last thing I'll say before we get on to the rest of the video, because I know it's dragged on a bit, you know that I ramble when I don't have a script. All I'll say is this: if you think I'm a good writer, if you think that I deserve to creatively write as a profession, to be paid to do it, then check out the Kickstarter. Take a look at the comic. It's all on there for free. If you like what you see, if you think that it's worth something, that my writing is worth something, that my brother's writing is worth something, that our ideas are valuable, then consider donating. Consider helping us take that step forward. Because this won't be the end of me. Even if I can't get this Kickstarter to take off, I will keep trying, because as long as I live, all I can do is try. But if you can help me get there and reach the next challenge, it wouldn't just be a fantastic thing, it would be a life-changing thing. And I'm very excited to finally be up to bat, to have the chance to change my life. In any case, mushy stuff aside, all that down and pat, let's get on to the reaction content. Hey there, everybody. Alright, so we're back on. Now, for the first video, I was trying to decide which one of the many things I can do should I feature first. And I decided to go ahead and feature 3. So today, on my first reaction video, we're going to do 1 candid reaction, 1 try not to laugh challenge, and 1 literary critique. Probably not in that order. I'm going to go ahead and do the candid reaction first, then I'm going to go ahead and do the literary critique, and then I will do the try not to laugh challenge, which I will enforce by taking a shot every time it makes me laugh. Alright, so without further ado, here is the first video, Vraks. I do believe that this was suggested to me by a commentator named Expert Marksman. I think that was the name. I can go ahead and check, but I'm pretty sure, Expert Marksman, you recommended to me this Vraks Chapter 1. Now, little backstory. So obviously I'm not a noob to Warhammer 40k, but I have not read or watched the Vraks series. I am obviously aware of the Siege of Vraks. It's impossible not to be. I catch so many references to it, and a lot of people love it. What I know about the Siege of Vraks is just like 2, maybe 3 things. I know that the Siege of Vraks was a combat action in which the Death Corps of Krieg was deployed. I know that they're very famous from that battle. I know that it was a siege, a very grueling siege, in which the Kriegers' unwillingness to retreat in all but the face of absolute carnage was thoroughly displayed. I also know that the Siege of Vraks had some pretty wonky numbers attached to it, like, it's a huge siege! 10,000 whole dudes are stuck in it, and it's like, 10,000 people. Those are not very large numbers, honestly. It's like we gotta get up into the millions to get to World War II standards, and that's where we should be at standard for things like Warhammer. So that's really all that I know about Vraks. Not to say that I'm gonna hold the numbers discrepancy thoroughly against it. Like most fans, I'm just gonna scale those numbers up in my head because I just don't know why anyone would think, with the modern history that we have now and the easy access we have to it, that anyone who's writing any kind of war fiction at all, especially war fiction that is science fiction, intergalactic war fiction, would think that anything in the 10,000s or 100,000s would represent a really significant interstellar force. It just does not. But it happens so often that no one can really hold it against the creators at this point. It's almost a fucking trope. Hopefully, it's a trope that dies more and more. But all that aside, you now know what I know about Vraks. Let's get into this video. Chapter 1, Departure. Okay. This is pretty cool. Damn, this is really well made. Are there any fans that were part of the Warhammer fans? Like, let's be fucking honest. Are there any fans that were part of the Warhammer fans? And GW spits in our face. Fuck shit. Gorgeous. This hits like all the fucking marks. Like, we've got a lot of Warhammer, but like, it smells so beautiful because of course the loot Warhammer. I love the look of these dropships and these carrier ships. They look so fucking good. Now, I'm not even sure these are legitimately like comic dropships. I'm not sure I've ever seen the like of their pattern. But they look fantastic. God damn. Oh my goodness, what a fucking introduction. That map, steal that. brilliant animation of warp travel. Damn, this is so high quality. Yo. Bobbant. Bobbant? William Bobbant. William. What you have created is fucking awe-inspiring. I mean, I don't know what words I could use to breach the sure shell of praise that you must have received for this work, because this is fucking amazing. Jeez. Now I can see why everyone's always talking about the Vraks animation, because by the dark gods, that shit looked so fucking good. God. And you know what I really liked is I like how they showed the Kriegers at worship and not being completely stalwart and stoic while at worship. You know, you saw some of the Kriegers sort of like in their fervor, and I like that because, you know, it's one of the differentiators that helps make the Kriegers distinct from like the clone army in Star Wars, aside from the obvious aesthetic. And it's just really nice because, you know, they are human. They are. Even if you breed them out of Vitae wombs in mass like products, the Kriegers are human. And even if they can go without most things, they still need something, some sustenance to legitimately tide them over until their deaths and holy combat with the Emperor's foes. And it's their faith. You can see it here. Oh, it's fucking very well done. So many details done so well. This was gorgeous. Brilliant. I'll definitely keep watching the Vraks series. I'll definitely make that a thing that's on my list from now on, because that was perfect. So, Expert Marksman, I believe that is the person who recommended this to me. Very well done. Excellent, excellent choice. Obvious choice, I suspect, but excellent choice, especially coming from a person who had not watched it until now. Very, very, very good. Okay. So, now we have finished up with the candid reaction. I will now move on to the literary critique. The literary critique that I have chosen to do first is one that I think many of you will actually already know. It is a story made by one of our favorite bossmans. Alright. So, I know nothing about the Commissar story at all, except for that it's written by an old man reacts. So, I'm going to go ahead and give my reaction. Now, at the, ahead of this, let me just say this. I am just who I am. I'm not an expert. I'm like barely a published author in that I've self-published comic books. I am a tenuous authority on writing. Let's just put it that way. As good as you think I may be, I'm not going to sit here and make claims over anybody else's work. I'm going to provide what is strictly my opinion and what I think and what I would do in certain situations and positions. My critiques, opinions, suggestions are all subject to the flaw of context and the fact that I am taking this from my internal skull space and what I would do in the situation. And there is such things as stories that, good as I may be as a writer, are not stories that I would actually know how to tell. And my armchair analysis, though spoken confidently, may actually amount to very little. But with all those disclaimers said, so that you know where I stand on those things, such as opinions and whatnot, let's go ahead and dive into a Commissar story and see what I think could be done better, worse, or what may be very good as it is. So let's take a look.
Hello, Commissar. How are you on this Emperor-blessed day?
Hospitaller, my guest is here. I'll be in my quarters.
Understood.
That's cute. cute. You got the Hospitaller in there to voice. I'm loving the sound effects. Very clean.
Hello, Jeffries. It's happening again. It must be that time of year. Don't get me wrong, Jeffries. It happens all the time. It just gets worse now. At the bottom of every amasec, when I wake up and turn on the lights, a flash or a reflection off a shine surface, it just gets worse. Do you remember when it used to startle me? I was in the middle of a staff meeting 3 years after it happened. I was in a command level meeting about a Tyranid incursion. The lights were dim. We were watching some holovid. The vid ended and then someone flicked a switch and bam. The eyes were right there watching me. Only for an instant, less than the time it takes to really blink. My bolter was already out of its holster, though. That required some explaining, Jeffries. You'd be surprised how many times a day I see those eyes now. Anything can remind me. Anything can bring me back. Facing my demons has never been a problem, but this is just... well, torture.
Slight critique here, though I do like the vast majority of this opening, and you do have a way of reeling in with this this issue that this Commissar, I assume is a Commissar from the image here, is describing to some friend. I don't know what medium this is taking yet. I assume he's writing a letter or sending a voice message. It's hard to tell. A little bit more telegraphing with that would help me set the scene in my head a little bit better. Just to know what I'm looking at. That aside, the thing I will say as far as a more general critique is this. He's referring to a guy, Jeffries, who, at the onset of this, you suggest that Jeffries has actually already known about this issue. That this is a topic that the operating character, the protagonist whose shoulder we're leaning over right now, this is an issue that this protagonist has already shared with Jeffries. That Jeffries is well aware of it, at least to a certain extent. Now, if it had opened with, something like, Jeffries, it's happening again, and it's high time you know why. I've never told you where this comes from in me, but I'm afraid that if I don't tell you now, I may never have the chance. Something like that tells you that, okay, Jeffries knows that this person is disturbed or has an issue or problem, but does not know the source of it and is now being elucidated to it, which would provide a proper context for you to re-explain this to Jeffries. Because as we get into this part of the story here, into this little segment I've heard, I become a little bit removed from the narrative, being cognizant of the idea that Jeffries should sort of already know this. And it's being explained for my benefit, and I should never think of myself or my benefit when I'm reading the story. So that's just a thing that jumped out at me at this point. Let's continue.
When I got the assignment, I thought it was a joke. Avathon 4? I thought for absolute sure that the Lord Commissar had misspoken. I even remember thinking maybe he meant Agathon, but no, he was completely serious, Jeffries. I had never even heard of the system. I had barely even heard of the Varnus subsector, but the only times I had heard of it was only in passing.
Very good use of sound effects.
I thought I had done something wrong, that I had come up short in some titanic measure when I was reading the report. But how, with my marks from the scholar, with the merit of Taralos I wore on my chest, with the personal commendation of the Lord Commissar himself that was given to me the day he put on my sash? The answer I got made the situation no better. The regimental commissar on Avathon 4 was dying, and I was the most junior despite everything else. So there it was, and there I was on the way to replace him. Jeffries, I hated everything about the...
You're overusing the name Jeffries. It's not an organic thing for a person to say the name of the person they're talking to so many times unless it's a quirk of their speech, or has some other context to explain it. So just to be aware of that, use it just a few times. It's all right for emphasis. Like, you can't not repeat it at all. But now he's saying Jeffries almost every paragraph, and it typically isn't the way that people talk. Also, I'm extremely curious to know what's so bad about Anathon or Agathon, not Agathon, but the planet he's being sent to. Just because I don't know if it's hideously dangerous or horrifically boring, and by telegraphing that a little bit into these previous sentences, you can actually characterize the Commissar a bit more, because there are some Commissars who would be excited to go to the most dangerous posting, and there are some Commissars who would be glad to go to the most boring posting, such as Commissars of the similar mentality to Kane, who is thrust into adventure, very rarely straight volunteering for it. And that helps us understand the mind of the Commissar that we are, or the character rather, of any kind really, that we are listening to. It would tell us, okay, this is a guy who's eager for action? Is a guy who's eager for peace? Has he fought his war, or is he waiting for his war to come? Or is he caught somewhere in between? Again, similar to Caiaphas Cain, though I imagine with like less of a comedic bent to him. But the just a little thing, not necessarily a critique, just a suggestion to add in the future if you should ever come across a similar situation and find the advice of worth.
The assignment. From the reasons to the reports, even the ride on the civilian bulk hauler to get there. The crew avoided me like the plague, and with my mood I didn't care. Avathon 4, population 5 million. Agri-world, primary export grains. They had even left the secondary export field blank. No history of uprisings or conflicts.
Okay, so it's
no
boring.
No wars it was involved in. No civil unrest even. And to make matters even worse for my mood, if it could have gotten worse at that point, the planet only maintained a quarter of an infantry regiment for the Imperial Guard and less than 25,000 PDF troopers.
Why is he being sent here? This is like
I was
punishment.
born in a hive, Jeffries. All of the time in my life had been spent breathing in the air of the hives, surrounded by spires and the cast of lumen globes, and here I was on the way to a planet where the biggest city held less than 30,000 civilians.
Okay, so just a little confusion here. I don't know. I'm a little... maybe it's just me. I might not be paying proper attention. Totally possible that I've just missed the cues here. But I was, when he walked in and began this dictation, I was actually kind of the impression that this Commissar was speaking before the fact. Like, Jeffries, I've just been assigned to this place, and now I'm going there, or I'm going to go there after I finish speaking this, or I've just arrived there. But now, from this previous thing, I get the impression that not only has he already arrived, but that whatever is going to happen on Avathon has already happened. Which is interesting. It could be done well. It may not be done well. The reason I say that is because, let's say that he has already had his adventure on Avathon already. Because from the sounds of it, he's already been here for some time. He's got some information about the planet. And it just sounds like he's actually arrived already. Like he's already taken the ship. He's already been foul-mood with the crew and everything. So if he's already there, then it would be very nice at this point, not at this point, but like, as the story progresses, that we make clear that we're going to break from his dictation to Jeffries and continue the story, because if it turns out that he's already had his entire adventure and he's speaking to Jeffries about it now, it makes the start of this dictation less sensical, because unless the adventure he's about to have on Avathon is extremely boring, and uneventful or bad for him in some way, because the tone he's taken this entire time has been that of a man who is bedraggled by boredom and spoliation of his ambition and potential. So if that is the case, then he should not have experienced anything up to the point of this dictation that would make him think anything differently. Though, again, maybe that dictation does break off. Just a point that comes into my head now as it occurs to me that he's speaking from a point in time and space after his arrival and after his assumption of the position that he's speaking of. So, continuing.
I never considered how beautiful the world was. No, I saw it as something ugly. A prison for me, for a decade or longer if I was forgotten here by the Commissariat. But it was beautiful, a floating orb of like green and gold cut with these pools of blue, the sort of artistry a painter would spend their entire life struggling to capture even in a fragment of its wonder. To me at that moment, though, it was the representation of everything ugly. Jeffries, my earliest memories had been watching bulk haulers landing on one of the 4 starports I could see out of the small window of my own hab block. Now I was going to step into that city of 30,000 Ceres after touching down on the only starport on the planet. When I landed and I inhaled the air, the clean air of that world, it somehow felt oppressive. That's when I first saw them. That's when I first saw the eyes. The one they belonged to surprised me, because how did someone as young as him ever get into the Imperial Guard? He was so young then, Jeffries. And he seemed optimistic until his eyes met mine. The first thing I did to that guardsman was glare my contempt at him, and apparently he wasn't used to that. In fact, the honored guard that had met me all straightened like they had been hit by an electro whip. Lack of discipline. Or so I thought at the time.
Let's see.
When I met the dying Commissar I was replacing, I never even bothered to make note of their name, but I was struck by just how relaxed he was, how familiar he was with the guardsmen. By the throne, he was addressing some of them on a first-name basis. I couldn't even fathom what I was witnessing. Insult to injury, there I am, standing in full dress uniform during the change of the Commissar's command, and instead of pomp and circumstance, I get tossed the keys to what the Commissar referred to as the Bane Blade. It was a damn Tauros. Every other regimental commissar I had ever heard of at least had access to a beat-up Chimera. I got a Dune Runner that looked like it had been through the siege of Vraks twice and had been on the wrong side of an Earthshaker bombardment.
Jeez.
So there it was. I was now technically the senior commissar of a regiment, the Avathon Rifle Corps, which would have been a high mark for someone as young as I was if no one really looked at the particulars. If someone did, it was almost shameful. I held commissarial duty over a quarter regiment that hadn't deployed in over 3,000 years. No one is coming to take 2,500 guardsmen from an agri-world that is so close to so many other hive worlds. No one's requisitioning men and putting in the effort needed when drawing 1,000 times that many is less than a week's warp's transit away. No one's going to put in that effort. That didn't matter to me, though. 2 hours after I hung my uniforms in my quarters in what passed for a regimental headquarters in Ceres, I called for an assembly. These troops could hate me, but I couldn't care less now. I might be stuck on this pit of a planet, but I refused to fail in my duty. I drilled them. I drilled them in march and firing and combat simulations. I drilled them in uniform, hand-to-hand combat. I can count at least 10 times in the first 6 months, Jeffries, that I almost shot the regimental commander for arguing about how hard I was pressing. I would not be found wanting when the chance came to get off of this rock. I saw the eyes a lot then. Sometimes they were exhausted, and at first they were just bitter. Do you want one? Of course you don't. I thought the guardsmen hadn't been put through their proper paces in a long time.
So, is Jeffries sitting in the room with him? Silent? Is he speaking to a servo skull? Or a servitor? Interesting. I'll say this. There is a little bit of a weakness to this style you've chosen to follow. I'm not necessarily sure that it can be easily subverted, but the weakness I'm detecting is just that because your story takes the form of one man directly speaking to another, a lot of telling is occurring. You're telling us a lot. And telling, I don't think I have to tell you that telling is typically looked down upon when compared to showing. And you are making attempts to show in your description, but it's hampered. It's like a constant mishmash combination of telling and showing going back and forth very rapidly. It's not terrible, but it does detract from the potential that could be there if you did something closer to a first-person perspective of him in the situation. Like, let me correct myself. If you began the story with him referring or talking to Jeffries and him being like, all right, Jeffries, so let me tell you why I learned to hate these eyes, or where I learned to fear these eyes, or where I first saw these eyes. And then we sort of dive into the narrative, a la flashback, you know what I'm saying? And then it's him inside his head in the place, and it's like, I remember my first day, the air was fresh. And then like you go on to describe the actual scene, because we're no longer sitting over his shoulder as he sits with his friend speaking about it, but we're now in his memory, actually walking down in a specific place, in which case you would actually take us through these individual scenarios that are being summed up. Like, for example, we would actually be there with him when he walks off the ramp and see who's there. How does he greeted when he walks off the ramp? Instead of him telling us that he's that the guy he's replacing is familiar with the guardsmen around him, we would see the old dying commissar be wheeled up or limp up with his cane and like slap a guardsman on the shoulder and be like, oh, don't worry, relax, no reason for the pomp and circumstance, it's just my replacement, yada yada yada. And I'm saying that like without actually having to say, you could also throw in his observation of like, God, he's so casual with his guardsmen, but without ever actually having to say that, you have communicated it by showing us him being casual, by showing those things happening. And they don't just happen in a summary, they happen in a scene that we walk through, even if that scene only lasts as long as it takes for you to make your point. That pulls in and pushes my face into the world, so to speak. It sort of immerses me. And you miss out a little bit on that when you take on the armchair retelling perspective, which, it's all in the name. Retelling involves a lot of telling. So anyways, let's continue.
And I ignored protests from everyone, the regimental staff, even the planetary governor who objected to me ordering a 10-mile march during harvest day.
See, I want to see that. You just told me that, but I want to see it. I want to see the commissar be sitting in his desk and he's like, what should our next drill be? Mine, what should our next drill be? Should it be disarming mines, or should I take them on another 5-mile hike just to make sure that the 10-mile march was that they really marched out the whole 10-mile march? I make sure to exhaust them with an extra hike, and then suddenly the governor calls in or bursts into his room or walks into his room, or however it is you want to characterize the governor, because then the governor becomes a character. It's like, enter. Ah, new commissar, perchance have you seen the condition of the troops? Yes, woefully out of shape. Yes, indeed. I think that you may want to forego the 10-mile march. I'm having a parade tomorrow, and it's a sorry parade full of tired guardsmen. Well, your parade notwithstanding, Governor, I'm afraid I'm going to have to deny that request. Like I just said, these men are vastly out of shape. They need a shaping up, and that doesn't begin with skipping 10-mile marches. And then, you get into their... My point is that then you have two characters being characterized. They're having a back and forth. You have a scene in which they're contending with each other. And that's where investment comes from. That's where people get involved. That's where, like, teeth get sunk into, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by telling. You're telling me about this, but as you're telling me, the Commissar doesn't exist. He's the voice speaking. But I don't see him in a place. He's not standing anywhere. He's not sitting anywhere. I'm just receiving point-blank information with a bit of characterization sort of around the fringes. So try to, by the time we get out here, like, let me see here how, we're almost 10 minutes out into this video. Try to get us into a scene as soon as possible. Try to get us into a time and a place with interesting people as soon as possible, and then show us that time, show us that place, and show us those interesting people. Don't tell us what they are. Show them doing the things that create the definition of what they are. That's what I mean. So in any case, let's continue.
Apparently, he had expected me to march the entire regiment into Ceres and then cut them loose on a 2-day pass to celebrate the holiday. But then it happened. It happened slowly, but it began to happen. I came to the end of a file and realized I had nothing else to write or file, nothing else to report, nothing else to do. I remember the realization of what it did to me, Jeffries. For the next week, you want to know what I did? Besides drill the men, all I did was polish and clean my uniforms. I think after that week I could have been awarded the Star of Terror for diligence and uniform standards. And then that week turned into 2, and then 3.
You have a lot of clever turns of phrases. Like these would be very, very nice. They're very nice already. They would be, in my opinion, even nicer, like sort of mixed in with internal dialogue involved in a scene. Imagining him, like I imagine that, you start the scene with him, saying something like, "I polished my boots for the 5th time, and I reminded myself I had to stop. After all, there's a fine line between polishing and scuffing what the Imperium gave you." Stepping back and looking at my uniform, I realized that I could have very well been awarded the Star of Terror for uniform maintenance diligence, were there such a thing. And, in fact, were there such a thing, I would have spurned the reward, because what reward is there in twiddling my thumbs when real work exists that I can't do? Something like that, putting us into a scene, setting us down in somewhere. Very important. It would juice up everything good that you're already doing.
Tasks like recording a new guardsman into the ranks or a promotion that I used to hate for how boring it was became these little islands of relief from the lack of something to focus myself on. It was then, and I was in the 2nd hour of polishing my boots, in the 3rd week of polishing my boots, that a knock came on my door. It was that young guardsman I had seen when I took my first step onto this world. He looked fit now. He had put on muscle. In fact, he was in the top 5% of the Avathon rifles in every regard.
See, this is another example of what I'm talking about. I'm sorry if it feels like I'm hammering it. It's just that you stand to gain so much by involving them in scenes. Because if we had gotten a scene of him coming off of his transport upon his initial view of the world, which... it's funny because this guardsman would have only been a tertiary part of that scene, which I love, because what would have happened is that the primary, dominating influence of the scene would likely be the retiring commissar or dying commissar who would be there to meet him, or whatever official would be there in an official capacity to, hand off reports and tell him what's up and what's what. The main focus would be on that person, on the commissar, on the world and his reaction to this world. With there only being these tertiary details about this guardsman who arrived to help escort him down or to oversee things or just to stand as honor guard to the other official or to himself. And then we'd be able to characterize that guardsman in the side of the scene just because he's there. And then when he comes back in this scene, without you having to even tell us that the Commissar himself notices anything, by just ambiently describing the guardsman entering the room, you could then impose on us, the audience, the realization of progress, which is what I think that you're going for here. You know, if he's sitting there reading his reports or just like twiddling his thumbs, or like he's like, and with that I signed my name on the last report of the day. Time to get to polishing, or at least I would have, if there didn't come a knock at my door. I almost gratefully allowed them to enter, and found a young but strong guardsman entering the room. His face was set with hard bone, something that I'd seen somewhere else before, but then I realized it. This was the young recruit I'd first seen, the one who greeted me on the landing ramp. His chin was more exposed now. He'd shaved, I realized, and also lost some weight. All good signs that paired even better with the thickening limbs and defined strength I saw that came from consistent drilling and training. The fruits of my woefully unvaried labors. Something like that. You see what I'm saying? That brings it around, because that makes that guardsman that you already set up sort of a nice cash chip you get to cash in when he develops out here. It gives us all a good feeling of time having passed and progress having been made. So in any case, let's continue.
I knew this because, well, Jeffries, I spent days upon days polishing my boots and buttons. How much of that time do you think I just spent researching personnel files for no other reason than to do something with them? Up until about 5 minutes before he entered my office, if someone asked me what he asked me, I would have made absolutely certain that no one in the next 6 generations of his family tree would have made such a request again. Jeffries, I'm telling you, I would have made that question such a memory. It would be told every sanguinala by half the regiment's grandchildren. I would have had a statue erected in my name with the verbal diatribe that I would have unleashed in the town square of Ceres. He looked at me and asked if I would attend his wedding. First, I wanted to jump out of my chair and throw my boot at his head, but no, a week later, there I was, attending a wedding, standing in a field of grain, surrounded by people in his family and his wife's family, who had all heard about the regimental commissar, and who all wanted to meet me. I tried to maintain my image the best I could, but then one of his civilian friends got up to speak. He raised a glass and made a toast to the guardsman and to the guardsman's new wife, Angela, and said, if he doesn't do right by you, you know who to go to. And then he points to me, and by the throne, I can't believe what I did next. With everyone in the wedding looking at me, I reach down and start tapping the grip of my bolt gun, and I'm glaring daggers at the guardsman. And everybody laughs, and even I start grinning. Jeffries, it was this place, it was this world. I began to understand why the commissar I had replaced was so relaxed here. This was a place that war forgot, that the time and rush of life seemed to crawl to us slow. I didn't stop drilling the regiment, but by that point they were approaching Cadian standards of physical fitness and preparedness, but I did stop with the other things. The first year after the wedding saw me actually beginning to enjoy the world. When the next harvest day happened, I actually marched the entire regiment to the center of town, and with the regimental commander grinning like an idiot next to me, I told the whole regiment not to come back for 3 days. Of course, we got mobilization orders, but Jeffries, the first time a general mobilization order came to my desk, I got so excited, but these orders came with the same regularity. At least once every few months or so, and I had been told they had been coming for years, decades, centuries even. The mobilization would get called, report statuses would be transferred, and then nothing would come of it. The guardsmen barely even knew the order had been given because the order for deployment would never follow it. Yeah, every once in a while a new commissar like me or a new regimental commander would come in, get the mobilization order, and actually act on it. They only stopped doing it after the 4th or 5th time. Even I gave it the 6th. But then I stopped doing more than giving it a glance just to see where troops were going to go and what sort of enemy they were going to fight, if even that was there. For 6 years, Jeffries, I was on that planet following a routine of drilling followed by hours of simply trying to fill time. You'd be shocked how much you can invent for yourself to do when there's so little to occupy yourself with. There's only so many times you can inventory the planet's military storehouse. There's only so many hours you can dedicate to cleaning and polishing. And when your guardsmen are at such a state of readiness, there's only so much more you can do to make them more ready for a war that will seemingly never have to fight. So I started walking and talking. I started taking an interest in my guardsmen and in their personal lives. Started off plain enough, like what drills do they enjoy and which ones they don't. How you feel about the two types of las rifle you use, the Galaxy pattern or the MM32 that some local Forge World had sent about 20 years ago. I even learned some of their first names, though thank the God Emperor I'd ever caught myself using them. Some of the guardsmen even started calling me this local term, like boss or bossman. After 6 years on the planet, Jeffries, I didn't want to leave. These people I had considered rustics and unworthy of my time were now... Jeffries, this is what the Emperor wanted for us all. Faces that weren't drawn from back-breaking labor in the manufactorum, but lit up from sunlight and time spent in open, clean air. Spirits that weren't crushed under clouds of smog and the looming thread of an endless war that just constantly. I walked the streets and the fields of what was called an agri-world, but Avathon 4 was a paradise. I lived there. I loved it. 4 more years and I would be up for reassignment. But what man in his right mind would ever leave a place like this? I had seen more already. I've traveled the stars. I would stay. I wanted to stay in this place that was alien to everything I had ever known. But it was to this place that I now belonged. The guardsman had a child, and I was there at her 3rd birthday with a little girl demanding to be picked up, surrounded by my guardsmen. And that's when the runner came. Another mobilization order, and I almost chewed out the private who brought it for wasting my time. The first line of text completely dissuaded me from that. The Scholar does not teach you not to feel fear. It teaches you how to bury it beneath duty, how to manage it so it doesn't show to your guardsmen. The Scholar teaches potential commissars to wall themselves off to such emotion. I felt my training kick back in as I read the mobilization report, but the change to my outward personality let everyone there know something was wrong instantaneously. I had gone from smiling and laughing to as cold and distant as I had been the first day I had arrived. At the top of the order, in bold print, were the words, "Invasion imminent."
Alright, so, very nice place to leave off. You know from listening to my stuff that I'm a big fan of the cliffhanger, one way or the other. Yeah, I just think that it's good writing to leave the audience wanting more. Don't bullshit your cliffhangers, but always leave on a place where when you come back, you're eager to find out what happens next. Just makes sense. So that's good, good practice, in my opinion. So I get the impression this was all just a setup to get on to the greater story of Avathon's defense. I will say this. I think that there was a big missed, and maybe, it's a little too slow-paced. I understand the eagerness to skip past the build-up and the setup to jump right into the payoff and to the heat of battle, so to speak. But taking a few, it's funny because I think that this video here is about like 18 minutes. Yeah, about 18 minutes, a bit less. So it would have taken, I think, 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 18-minute scenes to get us here and put us directly into the narrative so that we feel like this Commissar. And of course, what you can really milk fantastically, if you ever decide to like go through and do a prequel to the kickoff past part 1, there is a silent dread to being a military man in peacetime, especially when you're in the Warhammer 40k universe. You know, a silent dread to realizing that, yeah, we're at peace right now, everything is good right now, but in my heart of hearts, I know war is coming. It's inevitable. War may forget a place, but it always remembers. Always, at least in this universe. So because of that knowledge that both the audience and the main character have, there could be this silent, constant dread of, oh, it's great, but how long does it last? Oh, it's great, but how long does it last? And then finally, when the Commissar settles in and stops thinking that way, come the mobilization orders. But that's just my personal opinion, obviously. Overall, it's pretty good, I think. It's a good setup. If you're not going to put us into scenes more often and to introduce us to more characters besides the Commissar and Jeffries, then I would suggest to you that you go through this and shave it down. There's quite a bit of repetition, not terrible repetition. Like you're not literally repeating the exact words you said. You're just saying the same sentiment over and over again. Usually because you have a few good turn of phrases that you like. That work well for it, but you have to pick just one or two. You can't pick. We all think of great ways to do one thing, multiple great ways to do one thing, but that doesn't mean we got to do all the multiple things that we thought of for the one thing. You have to pick one of the multiple things you thought of. Otherwise, it gets a little pedantic. And that's an issue with this part 1, just because there are so few scenes we get stuck into directly. If there were more scenes, you could actually stand to be a bit more pedantic, and you could actually stand to repeat and go through a few cycles in repetition. It's almost like poetry when you do it that way. But since we're in this compressed period of time, and a lot of it is just catching us up to speed and telling us what's going on, then it exacerbates the issue of us noticing really keenly when you repeat yourself, which is mitigated because, again, like I said, you do these clever turns of phrases, but you do repeat enough things enough times that it becomes noticeable, and it drags down the introduction piece. I'll say this: in writing, there is a what do you say? It's not really a rule, but it's like a big generality, a thing that is generally true. And that is that you have to catch and snag the attention of your reader and keep it, like get a deep hook into it on your first or second page. And this sort of depends on a few pages going by before we get to the real thick, meaty hook of the situation, which is a peaceful planet that has been drilled and prepared suddenly receiving its mobilization orders, and those orders meaning something for the first time in 6 years, much longer, in fact, because the previous Commissar also had this issue. So, since that's where the real hook sinks in, given that we don't have a lot of scenes prior to that, that should be shorter. You need to get that part to us, the audience, in as hooky a way as you can, as quickly as you can. It's a balance. You can't just put it right in the beginning, because if you do that, then there's no hook and there's no reason for us to care. But if you put it this far back, then a lot of people may drop off, because the combination of this being a retelling and the combined with the repetition that you tend to do, cause this to have a bunch of points where a person might drop off or lose initial interest, because they're not being introduced to enough new places in detail or enough new characters in detail. Specifically, that guardsman who, the Commissar went to his wedding. I want to know that motherfucker's name. It's funny because the Commissar knows his first name, but we don't. We, the audience, don't, and we should know. I want to know what he's like. I want to know the color of his hair. I want to know, is he a good soldier? Is he a bad soldier? Is he a good enough soldier that just has a good morale about him, like a good attitude? Like, we wouldn't want to see this guy die in war, but he probably would because he's not a terribly good soldier, but he's such a good person. I want to know if that's him or if it's someone else. It'd be interesting if there was like a guy in the regiment who was like this quiet, guy who was like the best sniper in the crew, and he's sort of this introvert, antisocial person who one day comes into the commissar's office and is like, hey, I kind of would like you to come to my wedding. And the commissar's like, what? First of all, someone asking me to come to a wedding? I'm a fucking commissar. Second of all, you're getting married? And see, that would add like these nice, rich, enticing layers to the story you already have laid down. So my opinion is just either put in more scenes to help break this up and to inject us more deeply into the world and get us attached to the characters, or for this initial piece here, shave it down. Go through, look for what you repeat, and look for the iteration of that repetition that you liked the best. Select that one, cut out the other one, and then restructure the sentence so that it only needs to include the one you chose to include. Because you need to rush through the telling to get us to the showing. You need to put us in a scene. That is the most impactful thing. That's the best thing that stories do. The reason that you can tell your friends stories through telling is because your friends are already deeply invested in you, which is why it's insulting when your friends don't want to listen to your stories. It implies a lack of investment in you, which is not something that you like in your friends. So, in any case, it's good. I like it. But to make it better and to really, it's sort of a diamond in the rough. To shave down the diamond, to cut it, and to make it shine as opposed to make it grit, you need to go ahead and choose one of two things to do with these pieces like this, which is either get into a scene faster and put us in a place, a time and place with interesting people more quickly, or go through, look for the things that you repeat a bit, look for the things that you could shorten down, even if they're not necessarily repetitions, and as efficiently and skillfully as you can, chop, 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 so we get to the meat and potatoes of the story as quickly as quality allows. That's what I would say. Overall, though, pretty good, and I'll be coming back and seeing the rest of the parts of this series and giving you my thoughts on that, unless, of course, it is unwanted, in which case I'll desist. Not looking to bother anybody. So, in any case, that was fun. Now, we get into the last bit. Now, we do the do not laugh challenge, the try not to laugh challenge. So I'm going to do this. I selected a video. I went on to show you how I selected this video, okay? I went on to YouTube. I just typed in try not to laugh challenge and I selected the first video that came up. If you guys like, you guys can make try not to laugh challenges for me. Go ahead and compile a playlist of your own, make it public. A playlist of things that you want me to react to that are funny, and then put it in the comments below, and I may react to your playlist. I'm always looking for those things, and I'll try to I'll try your custom try not to laugh challenge. Okay, so that will be what we can do next time if anybody decides to put that forward. For now, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with this pre-made challenge, which I have not seen, and we'll see if it can make me laugh. So, let's go ahead and get ready. All right. I've got my shot poured. First of many, potentially. So let's go ahead and start ourselves up. Ugh. All right, here we go.
Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, grab the girl hand. Oh Lord, you walk out.
Look at this dude's little ass hat.
Oh, you're doing a video?
Small ass hat.
You were definitely
You told me it was.
Remember the music.
Oh, I ain't doing
Oh shit,
This one's stuck. Look at him. He's stuck. I want to pull him out.
What's brown and sticky?
What? Stick.
Boy even has like the decency to cover himself. Oh.
Now who's gonna stop me?
Luigi! Try it. It's a fucking little terracotta pot. It's even got like a whole stamp on there and then it's painted. Like,
See you, chump. What the hell?
ใส่ทองขับแว่นปะแปนดึงสเกรงเว้ย
Unexpected item in bag.
Nice ball right there. Nice ball.
Nice spot. Get out of any phone call with this one trick. Oh my god!
I mean,
Do you hear me? I'm not afraid anymore.
This fish right here, cuz. I want me this fish right here, cuz. How much this shit cost?
Bro, here's your drink. Thank you, man. Thank you.
all right, you want your receipt?
Oh, what? Like I'm gonna return it?
All right, have a good day.
Some people are so ugly.
On a
Yeah, like your fucking dog.
I got this Halloween decoration, modded it, of course.
I want to show you something.
Không. Bố lên.
My nephew sent this. I know it's silly. God damn.
Yeah, well, no, the thing is, though, is that she's got to go out and then come back in. I'm just having a look at the window. I was given the person. Callum, I'm on the phone! Sorry, fuck off. Oh my god, sorry.
Insert cash or select payment type. Use PIN pad to complete transaction.
Welcome to Lake Charge Gag Gogman Go Chug Burger Gun Gagama.
Hold up, bro. It sound like two midgets wrestling in my washing machine. Hey!
Hey, bro. They're in a fight.
You again. Did you get this from Chad?
No.
Then where'd you get it?
Okay.
Brought along some nuts and bolts that I found. Well, I say found, unscrewed.
Where did you unscrew them from?
I'd rather not say.
As you can see on this very nice statue, you can see it's good luck to touch the hand of the statue. That's why it's so golden. Very nice.
No, this whole thing, all of this, it's all about me.
The north, where the sky glows at night, I'll find you on that path.
Bagheera, I'm not taking one more step.
All right, ready?
We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
Have a Hispanic mom without telling me you have a Hispanic mom.
No.
Each bowl has 2 packs of ramen, exactly 2 packs.
And I'm usually a 1-pack girl.
And,
No fucking way.
Many friends have constipation in their lives. To help them solve this problem, so I invented this constipation unclogging toilet. The design is very human. We just need to sit on it, then activate the switch. This will completely solve the problem of constipation. Very easy to use.
Hi.
He's coming into the
What is that, George?
Hey! Come on, man! That's too easy!
My bad.
First day of school?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
What you gonna do when a girl, when you walk in class, they be like, hey, Patty! What you gonna do?
I'm gonna say hi to them.
You gonna say hi? No, don't say hi. Say what's up.
So?
Yeah, throw the head back harder, like, oh, not.
That's mean.
Let's try it again.
Yo, leave this
Say,
kid
what's up?
alone, man. Poor fucking kid.
There you go. And then keep walking, alright? Yeah. Alright.
Come on, Plum. Let's go hang out in my room before we get pregnant.
I just bought this shirt. I'm not gay, but $20 and $20.
Hola! Excuse me?
Yes.
Do you speak English?
Yes.
I'm street photographer.
No. Have no time. No time.
I will take picture anyway.
Whoa, what the hell?
He's fucked it!
That is but a taste of our fury. Do you yield? Fuck!
Why would you do something so fucking stupid? Holy shit.
Coca-Cola Light, Coca-Cola normal y Coca-Cola cero. ¿Cómo Coca-Cola? Cero. ¿Cómo Coca-Cola? Cero.
No, I'm not. I'm not high. Chase.
What?
Do I look high?
Can you tell the time?
Do I look high?
Come on, Julia!
Guys, today I'm gonna be teaching you how to speak 1000 BC. So basically, all you want to do is unlock your inner demons and just go with some goddamn.
Oh my gosh, guys, we're gonna go inside this car wash without a car. It's gonna be so epic. Oh my gosh, are you okay? What is that?
Mamma var han åker ju att kulak koydular ya kulak attılar çıkarım. Şartı kıptan. Vay işnalle. Vay işnalle böyle.
He is out.
Ow!
It was interesting, like Andy Samberg's the one that
No.
auditioned. But then he was actually able to finagle it. That, like, he was living in Los Angeles with the other two. And,
What?
like,
So I'm eating Jolly Ranchers, right? They gave me no blue raspberry, dog. Not one blue raspberry.
What age should you give up on your dreams?
65.
Why?
Wait, no, actually, 80.
80?
Wait, no, actually, don't give up on your dreams at all.
So, what's your final answer?
7.
Now we go. Now we go. Hold on myself. I'm on my. Hey, I'm right here with y'all.
Run!
Hey, come here. What the hell is that? Hey, stop playing, fool. Go! What's that?
Didn't work. $2,000 freaking dollars for this door. Let that sink in.
يا صوت باب بيت هنا كنا صوت الامبوستر بمنقص اسمه شوف الحين
get out. Get out. Fuck out of here.
Yeah, he comes back for more. They always do, man. What a good popper.
I can put a mine in front of it, or in the back of it. Leave it present.
Yeah, that would be funnier. Hold on, let me see if I can stab the tires. Nah.
Putting down the mine. Get out of here.
Yeah, I'm going. Yo, won't you die if you do that?
Watch another video for more funny memes. Thanks for watching.
Alright guys, so that did not make me bust out laughing. And I don't count little chuckles. I don't count that. You gotta make me ha ha out my mouth, alright? That this if you laugh 6.9 times you lose. It couldn't even make me laugh 1.1 times. So next time, oh, I get it, 69. Listen, I need something better than this. I need some funnier substance. I'm leaving it to you guys. Find me something that'll make me laugh. Break me with laughter. Because otherwise, I'm not sure that this is up to the task. Alright, so that'll about do it for this first reaction video. In the future, I do plan to split up the reactions into different videos of their own. This is a very long but special debut reaction video, so expect them to be shorter and expect them to be split up into their respective topics next time you come around. Again, thanks for watching my new reaction videos, and let me know what you think. If you have any recommendations for reactions or things I should watch, put them in the comments down below. That includes any playlists for Try Not to Laugh challenges, and that includes anything that you want me to do a candid reaction to, or anything you want to throw in for a literary review. Go ahead, toss it in there. Please make sure it's a video. It does have to go onto my channel after all. Also, more Darkness and Light coming soon, as well as Star Wars as Warhammer 40k. I'm still extremely busy at the moment. My trip was delayed, but a lot of my work was not, and the trip still has to happen. So, that's gonna have to go down, and while that goes down, I will be unable to write. But I'll be back to it as soon as I can, and I've written as much as I can leading up to this, so hopefully when I begin again, it won't take as long to get back on the horse, since a fair amount of the next script is already ready. Please make sure to check out my Kickstarter and my free comics on the nightlibrary.net, or in the Kickstarter link in the description down below. Any attention, any support you can lend me helps get me that much closer to what I'm ultimately trying to accomplish, being a professional writer who writes as a part of my job. So if you're interested in helping me accomplish that, please check it out. Down there, once more, last time, thank you again. So, with that, I bid you adieu, and until next time, I'll see you later.